Hi, this is Flux. Flux is an effects processor, synthesizer, and utility module for the music thing computer. Flux started off as a effects processor, and then I realized I had one more core, so I added some synthesizers and some extra utilities that come out of the CV and pulse outs, like MIDI to CV, different sequencers, and LFOs. Let's start very simple. Let's select an effect, which happens with the switch down menu. So you hold the switch down, and then you rotate the main knob. And you can see on the bottom here, this is a current selected effect. And if you rotate,
no compressor, guitar amp.
You can hear which effect is selected.
Side vibrato pitch shift, digital tape delay.
That's
digital tape ping pong.
Use ping pong delay. And we can hear nothing because there's nothing plugged in here. We just have the outputs and the voice preview here. You can also have the voice preview on the main outputs. And now we hear our effect. Currently we are completely dry, and if we are in the middle switch, we can change our effect settings. So the main knob controls wet dry. Where right is fully wet and left is fully dry. The X knob controls time. And the Y knob controls feedback. If you want, you can modulate the X and the Y knob using the CV1 and 2 inputs. I have slopes going through the stomp box as an attenuator, and I connect that to time. And you can hear we are modulating the knob. This is kind of the basic core. There are a couple of different types of effects. Mainly delays, like the ping pong you've heard, or
Freebird. Digital delay.
Just a normal delay. There's a couple of guitar effects, like choruses.
Tape delay. Pitch shift. Vibrato sine tremolo.
There's multiple different reverbs depending on what you want for your use case.
Ping pong, tape blue, plate reverb, spring reverb, plate reverb.
Plate reverb.
Reverb, spring reverb.
Spring reverb. Where the X knob controls decay and the Y knob controls tone. There's a
reverb
implementation.
Shimmer reverb. Shimmer reverb.
It's a shimmer reverb.
Cathedral reverb. Micro looper. Granular cloud.
And the granular reverb. You can also find some more complex effects.
Granular clouds. Micro looper.
Like this micro looper, which separates your audio into different slices and plays them back either reverse or forward. Which sounds really nice on things like drum loops. There is
lossy audio,
which simulates MP3 and packet loss. And adds some nice texture. and
Granular basic reverb. Alphas
some more
reverb.
reverbs
Hadamard
and
reverb. Oil can echo. Resonator.
things like the resonator. That's it for the effects. Just explore what's in there. It's a lot. Next, let's look into the synthesizers. I'm gonna quickly switch to the
No effect.
bypass effect, with just no effect on it, so you can just hear the synths. You've got multiple ways to play the synthesizers. You can either, let's just turn on the first one,
External input. Wavetable.
which is the wavetable synth. You can either use a gate signal, like the square wave here, to trigger the pulse input and have pitch in here, or you can also use an external MIDI keyboard. Let's try the gates first. So I've got wavetable on, and I'm gonna plug in an external gate. And if you turn the switch up, you get to the settings of that synthesizer. In this case, the main knob is a decay, or even attack. The X knob controls the pitch, and the Y knob controls the wave shape. Some synths have one extra parameter, like sample selection, or in this case filter cutoff, in the extra knob, which is if you toggle the switch down, the Y knob controls those. Those are usually more static effects, like the cutoff here. You can change the synth volume, by the way, in the bypass effect menu. Next synth is PA bass.
No effect. F modal. Virtual strings. Virtual analog.
Which is a virtual analog bass synthesizer. And you can use external CV as a pitch input. To play. The next synth in line is the modal.
Piano. Virtual wave. External virtual strings.
Our strings here. Which is a string synthesizer. Uses Kappa strong and has decay on the main knob, pitch on X, and tension and buoying on the Y knob. You can either modulate things like the timbre on the Y knob on the audio 2 in, or you could, using the web interface, switch the synthesizer to polyphonic mode, and I'm going to show you how. So if you open up the Flux Manager web UI, you will see there's a lot going on here. On top here, you can see the connected computer. Here you can load settings to download the device. And here's some more stuff I'm going to show later. In the control page here, you can switch between the different synthesizer modules and different effects. Same as if you would hold switch down.
Virtual piano.
And
Chatter. Basic reverb.
And this is why I'm just going to quickly turn off the voice announcement. And you can just see them here now. So let's say we have our string synth and have pitching connected. We could connect the second pulse input and the second source of CV. And switch the RD2 input to the polyphonic in. And this way we can play more complex sequences on the synth. Let's quickly unplug everything. Flux has up to 4 voices of polyphony using MIDI. So if you, instead of using the pulse inputs, use a MIDI keyboard or the included MIDI keyboard on the Flux manager page, you can play Flux polyphonically, also using an external sequencer, for example. Let's look at the next one, which is piano, just a piano synthesizer coming from Amy. And let's play it. There also is a modal synth, which is based on kind of like wood plugs or bells. And let's switch to different effects. Maybe use the bypass. Sometimes Flux might hang up and you can just reset it. And go back to model. There's also an FM synthesizer, which has, on the switch down, extra knob has its FM preset, and you can play that too with the keyboard. There's also a noise source. Let's just quickly trigger that here, which is quite helpful for some of the effects. Like the wind effect. Simulates like blowing in a bottle. There's also multiple types of samplers, like the one-shot sampler, which just plays samples once. That's ton of effects. And you can use the Y knob to select the sample. The main knob is decay. And the X knob is pitch. And as you might have guessed, you can also modulate the sample. Which is a bit chaotic. This is why we have different kinds of samplers in here. There's also the looping sampler, which is basically just like the one-shot sampler, but instead of playing the sample once, it loops it, which is quite nice if you have like single cycle waveforms, for example. So I have some single cycle forms on it here, and let's just play it with MIDI. Oh, this is the bird, sorry. Let's go here maybe. And allows you to play those samples. Also polyphonically. There's also the sample player, which playbacks your samples, just continuously looping, where the main knob control the length and direction, X knob controls pitch, and Y knob controls the start position. And the trigger just re-triggers the sample. There's also the drum sampler, which takes up to 4 different pulse inputs and plays the first 4 drum samples, or using MIDI. And the top 2 are even velocity sensitive if you have a trigger signal that has different velocities, like voltages. The X knob controls the global pitch, main knob controls the decay, and the Y knob lets you select duplicate. There's also the granular sampler, which takes samples or like parts of samples as grains and places them back. So let's play that with MIDI. I'm gonna select a single cycle waveform in this case and play it back using the granular. And this is interesting. Maybe use another one. Let's use another sample, maybe this one here. Those are the birds. So if you use that one, you can hear the main knob modulates like the randomness and pitch. The X knob changes pitch, and the Y knob selects where in the sample you are. And last but not least, there's also a drum synthesizer. Which is probably a good spot to talk about the utility outputs. So as you can see here, on the input side, you can select if you want to sample and hold and quantize the input to your like the pitch input to your all your synthesizers, and the audio in selects if you want to have polyphonic or wide parameter and the audio to input. And the output side allows you to change between different outputs here. For example, you could output an LFO on your utility output, which would sound like that. Let's put that into pitch in. Let's just connect that to audio out. And you can see here, you can either control the speed here in the web UI, or if you double tap the switch, you can use the X knob to access the settings for the left column and the Y knob for the right column. And this one is a like smooth random LFO. You could also have things like a triangle LFO or a sine wave, and you can select the range of its output. Yeah. They also come quite in handy if you self-patch. So you could self-patch the LFO to the pitch input, for example, to create like some very looping, kind of random sample and tone melodies. You can also output things like MIDI pitch to it. It's random sample and tone, which can get triggered. Let's do that quickly here. Just connect that to the audio input and switch. And now let's connect the CV output to the pitch, or like the FM input here. And connect the pulse output here to the pulse in. And this way we get random sample and told, which samples just random noise. You could also have a step sequencer in here and randomize that. If you don't want to use an external clock input, you could also use the internal clock and divide that with a clock divider and multiply it here. And then on the double tap down menu, you can access the speed. And there also is a recent addition of the drum trigger sequencer. If you just quickly connect all the CV and pulse outputs to the pulse inputs, like that, and switch to the drum synth, for example. We could, if we select our step sequencer here and maybe select the step sequencer here and the step sequencer gate out here. We can sequence our drums here. could also use the grids mode. To use grids as a drum pattern generator. And instead of using the drum template, you could also use your own samples with a drum sampler. To round it all off, how do you actually get your own samples on the device? In the card builder here, you can upload your own samples and you can see them here. And this allows you to, one, like edit your sample, like shorten it, and also select loop in and out points for your sample, for the sample looper if you want. If you have like very short, long samples, you could also shorten them down a bit. Also add loop points here. And then create your card. Build full card builds like a full Flux card, which has the menu to select different synths and effects. And build dedicated card allows you to basically bake down your settings. So sampler drums in this case and bypass and all the output settings here, which would just bake them down so you couldn't switch settings, which kind of allows you to lock a card to have like specific cards, like different Flux cards for different purposes, for live set, for example. You can also lock and unlock the card in the UI up here if you want. If you want to share your patches, first you can also like randomize patches here if you want to generate like some random
Virtual
patches.
analog.
And you can also export a patch either using the share button, which just generates a big link you can share, or using the download button, which generates basically like a digital patch card, as you can see here, which allows you to back up your patches and also share them, because if you open the menu up here, you can also import patch cards from other people's. So this way you can share your patches and keep them in a safe place. That's not your card. That's it for Flux. It also has like full MIDI CC support in here. As you can see, there's a lot of different effects, different synths. There might be some bugs still, but I think it's about time to share it now. That's it.